Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back into the show. Yet another episode of Crushing Fantasy Football. I am Bryce Lockridge, your host of the show. Now, guys, today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the consensus top 3 wide receivers off the board in this year's coming draft. And we all know who they are. We got Justin Jefferson, we got Cooper Kupp, and we got Jamaar Chase. Now, you really can't go wrong with any one of these 3 guys if you take them as the first wide receiver overall. But I am going to be talking to you guys about which one you should take over the other, because I think that there's one in particular that still has more value than the other 2. And, it's all very close. So I'm going to help you kind of differentiate, who you want to take as the first wide receiver overall if you get the opportunity to get a really early pick and get to take one of these wide receivers in the first round. So I'm going to get right into it with the first player on my list. I want to talk about Jamaar Chase. Now, Jamaar Chase was incredibly impressive last year. I mean, he only played 12 games, missed some pretty significant time, and was still third in the league in red zone targets. He only had 2 less red zone targets than Justin Jefferson, who was first in red zone targets. Justin Jefferson had 28, Jamaar Chase had 26, despite missing all that time. So what this really shows you is that Jamaar Chase just plays in a far better offense than the other 2 wide receivers that we're looking at here in Justin Jefferson and Cooper Kupp. So Jamaar Chase is going to give you the highest touchdown upside out of any of these wide receivers. And that's by far his most dominant quality that he has over these other wide receivers is he just plays in a far better offense and thus provides you greater touchdown upside. I mean, this is a guy who, he had 9 touchdowns last year, which was 4th in the NFL at the wide receiver position, despite only playing 12 games. So you got to figure that he would have absolutely led the league in red zone targets and would have absolutely led the league in touchdowns for all pass catchers. So this is a guy who he provides you a ridiculous weekly ceiling, right? He could get you 200-plus yards due to his awesome big play ability. He has a mega elite quarterback in Joe Burrow throwing in the ball. In fact, when we're looking at all these wide receivers, the wide receiver who has the best quarterback throwing the ball is Jamaar Chase. So he's got a lot of advantages on these other guys. And that's why I've been so big on Jamaar Chase over the offseason. Now, I'm going to get into why I think the other 2 still have slightly more value than Jamaar Chase and why I think you should actually take them over Jamaar Chase. But due to all these reasons, Jamaar Chase is a fine number 1 wide receiver pick overall. In fact, if you had the 101 and you took Jamaar Chase, I wouldn't say that's a bad pick. I mean, wide receivers are arguably more valuable than running backs now due to the increased target share, and so if you feel like Jamaar Chase is more valuable than the other 2, he's not a bad first pick overall at the wide receiver position, and he's not a bad first pick overall just in the entire draft. So I love Jamaar Chase this coming season. Again, you can't go wrong with any of these 3 guys, but I'm going to get into the next 2 and why I think they are a little bit more valuable still than Jamaar Chase. So I'm going to go on to Justin Jefferson. Now, Justin Jefferson had an unbelievable season this last year. And the fact of the matter is, he plays on a team where the entire offense runs through Justin Jefferson. There is nobody else in this offense anymore. Justin Jefferson is the offense, okay? He had 184 targets last year. So he averaged well over 11 targets a game, which is absolutely mind-blowing. Averaging over 11 targets a game. That's crazy. He led the league in red zone targets with 28. He led the league in receptions with 128. He led the league in receiving yards with 1,809 receiving yards. And he had 630 yards after the catch. That was first in the league. I mean, this is absolutely unbelievable. He was first in the league in so many vital wide receiver statistics. And we know that this guy, we have a 3-year sample size, right? This guy is going to come out and be absolutely dominant every season. There's almost no chance of him busting over a season-long standpoint. This guy is one of the best fantasy weapons we've ever seen. And due to the 3-year sample size, due to the fact that the entire offense runs through Justin Jefferson, and due to the fact that he is just an absolutely dominant fantasy weapon due to the ridiculous target share that he receives. I'm going to take him over Jamaar Chase, me personally. Again, it's very close. It could go either way, but I'm going to take Justin Jefferson over Jamaar Chase. I mean, this dude was first in the league in so many vital wide receiver statistics last season that I just think it would be silly to take Jamaar Chase. Again, I don't think it would be silly. It's very close. But me personally, I'm sold on Justin Jefferson. We've seen him dominate every single year since coming into the league. We have a 3-year sample size. I'm taking Justin Jefferson over Jamaar Chase. Next player on my list is going to be Cooper Kupp. Now, when it comes to these 3 wide receivers, I am taking Cooper Kupp over all of them still. Now, there's some people that might think that's crazy because Justin Jefferson and Jamaar Chase are way younger. Cooper Kupp's going to be 30 this season. But look, wide receivers don't fall off a cliff until like age 32, 33. It's not the same as running backs, and running backs fall off a cliff at like 27. But the fact that Cooper Kupp is 30 should not affect his fantasy production at all. He's still young enough to absolutely dominate. And, there's also the fact that, he's coming back from an injury. Well, it was a high ankle sprain, guys. A high ankle sprain is nothing. It's not an ACL tear. It kept him out for the rest of the season, but this was very much because the Rams weren't even in contention, so they didn't want to force him back onto the field. When he has an entire offseason to recover, he is going to absolutely be 100%. Matt Stafford's absolutely going to be 100%. Sean McVay is going to be running the offense. This is a wide receiver who, in his year and a half of dominance, ever since Matt Stafford became his quarterback, has hands down been the most dominant fantasy wide receiver of all time. There's just not even competition. This guy, he never busts. He never busts. If you look at his year and a half of dominance, he didn't have one game where he was just a complete bust. This is absolutely insane. Even with Justin Jefferson's super dominant fantasy season last year, he still had 3 weeks where he came out and just laid an egg and just did absolutely nothing, which is totally normal. I mean, that's just absolutely what happens in fantasy. Even the best of the best players, even the best fantasy players of all time, have weeks where they bust. The one exception of this is Cooper Kupp. In his year and a half of dominance, he didn't have one single bust game. He has an equivalent high ceiling to Jamaar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Tyreek Hill on a weekly basis. And his floor is like 15 fantasy points for PPR leagues. I mean, like 15 fantasy points for Cooper Kupp is like a terrible performance. And that's like as bad as he can do. So due to the ridiculous floor ceiling combination, due to his year and a half of being the best fantasy wide receiver I have ever seen, I'm taking Cooper Kupp still over both Justin Jefferson and Jamaar Chase. I mean, this dude saw a 31% team target share last year. That's absolutely ridiculous. He was top 10 in the league again in his yards per route run with 2.6 yards per route run. And this is a new fantasy statistic that I've really just started looking at, but I really enjoy this stat because I think it's a pretty telltale sign of, how good a wide receiver is. And that is fantasy points per route run. This guy, every time he ran a route last year, averaged 0.65 fantasy points. This was second overall in the NFL. I cannot believe that that's not first overall in the NFL, but second overall in the NFL in fantasy points per route run. Every time this guy runs a route, he averages 0.65 fantasy points. That's absolutely mind-blowing. This guy is just a walking fantasy championship. I mean, he just is. If he can stay healthy all of next season, I think that he's absolutely going to be the wide receiver one again, just based on the role in his offense. The fact that he's locked in to have a 30+% team target share. This guy's absolutely going to go off again. His floor ceiling combination is ridiculous. His talent is ridiculous. Due to, getting heavy red zone target share, he's still got high touchdown upside, even though he plays in an offense that was definitely questionable last year and might or might not improve going into this season. We'll have to see how the offseason goes. But Cooper Kupp is going to score a lot of touchdowns regardless because he is absolutely force-fed the ball when the Rams get in the red zone. So the touchdown upside is there. The air yards there. He gets plenty of deep targets. For PPR leagues, he's absolutely dominant because he averages close to 11 targets a game. This guy is just total and absolute fantasy dominance. And when it comes to these 3 wide receivers, I'm still going to go ahead and take Cooper Kupp over all of them. All right, guys, I do appreciate you tuning into the video today. I hope this video helped. I do appreciate you guys. It's so good to be back on the podcast. Like I said, I'm going to be getting at you guys a lot more consistently from now on. So catch you later.